Well, it's going to take over. We're all going to be dead.
Well, that we're not dead yet. You do know that they hadn't figured out how to get a machine to know that the insured's lying to you. They haven't gotten a machine to figure out what musty smells like. Um, what dirty diapers smell like. They hadn't figured that out. Speaking of that, I thought this was actually hilarious. Where I live in Florida, they just closed they just closed a Dollar General, Dollar Tree. It's all the same dollar now, isn't it? They all just merged together.
Right.
Okay. Well, the reason why they closed it was they could not, for the life of them, figure out where the smell was coming from. And it was so bad that their employees quit and their customers quit coming. I mean, I would have thought they would have called somebody like you and been like, hey, man, we got a real problem here. But the answer was to just shut everything down.
I guess.
It's kind of like they did with COVID. Just shut the building. It'll be fine. By the way, I got to say that your phone holster there,
Yeah.
looks like it's been a million miles, but I envy it.
Oh, and my daughter gave me that for Christmas. It's either 2 or 3 Christmases ago. So
Yeah,
I've got a better one up there, but I wear this one until it falls off, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's interesting.
so Kevin, you were traveling the RV here recently, weren't you?
We went out. Yeah. We're going back to the same place in July. We've only been out on it once. But
how'd it go?
We enjoyed it. We enjoyed it a lot. It was a campground. We found out from friends of ours who live near there that when it rains a lot, which it was raining a lot, that it has flooded the whole campground. And it's literally a little island. You go across from the main road onto the campground. I mean, it's like a little bridge is all it is. But they told us that they would let us know if we needed to go. And we watched the water go from, I don't know how you would say it, from out in the main part of the creek up to within about, 0 inches of overflow in its banks. And it never went over.
Wow.
So we were watching it. I stayed up one night, pretty much the whole night, just to keep an eye on it because they said it happened so fast. So
now I was in one where we had to move the cars to higher ground, and then but the RV was okay.
Interesting.
But like we had to return things to people because like parts of grills and stuff would float by.
Oh yeah, okay. You've been there.
I always laugh about it that I would have never thought this, but a RV campground is perhaps the quietest place on earth.
I believe that. Yes, it was very quiet.
And I don't even get that. I mean, I don't even get it. So you just piling up money this afternoon?
Well, this was sitting in the chair I'm sitting in, and I'm putting it up, and all this money fell out, and I'm like, holy cow!
What a deal!
I mean, I've probably got a couple of $1,000 sitting here in my hand. I'm going out to party. See, you gotta go.
Yeah, I do like I did with my wife once. She said, "Did you find that money in there?" I said, "I cannot remember if I saw it or not."
Is it gone? We might be reporters of theft.
Well,
I know what it's from. I just didn't know it was still sitting here. So
now, so where you been in the world?
I haven't been too far lately. I've been mostly around here. Probably headed out to LA in mid-July for a new franchise training. But
No. You're in Tennessee. You're in Tennessee, right?
Yes, sir.
What part of Tennessee?
Right outside of Nashville.
Okay. Well, I've got a bone to pick with your state.
Well, I don't imagine you do. We're a little backwards.
That is one way of saying it.
Oh yeah. We're about 40 years behind the rest of the country.
Well, like let me just give you a for instance, okay? I was appointed onto an appraisal.
That's the one you came up for when I was gone.
Well, there was 15 of them. There was quite a few I got left to do. I'm gonna see you again sometime soon because we're gonna go. I want to get your opinion on a few things. But here's the thing. Like the first one I'm on, that my opposing appraiser. Well, I got appointed in because the guy that was doing the job before me was a scallywag that was charging people some astronomically large amount of money.
Okay. Was he from here?
Yes. You're going to find that's the common characteristic. Okay. So the stupid attorneys have gotten into some kind of arrangement where they decided on who the umpire was, which again is stupid. They managed to get the umpire assigned who has a weird schedule of fees, and his retainer fees for the loss we're on are going to be $14,000.
Okay, just for retainer.
Yeah, it's we have about a $70,000 difference. You do the math. It's I mean we're not. I mean that's quite a fee if he doesn't charge any more. Okay, now the other part of that is the umpire was in business with my opposing appraiser until they sold their business 2 years ago. I'm thinking that might just maybe just make you a little polluted, right? So we go from there. It gets better. So they also stipulated in the agreement to do the appraisal, which I can tell you I want to pistol whip somebody for this one, is we are using the carrier's engineer report to guide the scope.
Okay.
And we are only appraising wind, not hail. Although it was a hail and wind event and the carrier's already paid some dollars for wind.
Okay. So they're not recognizing the hail damage?
That is correct. That is correct.
Well, okay. I was just going to say, why would they use an engineer who? I mean, engineers work in classrooms, not fields.
Well, long story short, it's just it is. I think the technical term for it is shit show.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before.
And the thing about it is it's going to wind up if it winds, it's probably going to go to the umpire. It's probably going to get settled for like $35,000. Okay. Now, just the gap sheathing on this particular property is going to run you about $17,000. And about 5 minutes after this is over with, basically what's going to happen after the legal fees, the appraisal fees, the umpire fees, the insured's going to get about $5,000.
They should be able to do a lot with that. I'm
telling you. So I don't think anybody realizes that this is not fair dealing. Okay, like it is riddled with not fair dealing, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So given that it is riddled with non-fair dealing, then it makes me think that we ultimately will have to discuss this in a court of law. Well,
so why was there even an appraisal?
Evidently, the brain surgeons that were in the middle of a court proceeding of some sort just decided that they would do this.
Oh, okay.
And it just looks like to me it's going to be a mess that has to be unwound.
Yeah.
I hear like errors and omissions policies and things like that being come up, stuff like that. But if you get down to it, that's what's going to happen. And you know what these poor souls are going to say about me? They're going to see Herring makes nothing but trouble. When I didn't make any trouble.
That's not a bad reputation to have.
Yeah, well, I have a generally I have a reputation that says I'm the nicest guy on the planet until you break the rules, and then I'm gonna thrash you. It's just simple as that. It's a real simple, it's a real simple thing. I think we all could get along. I really do. And I do get along with most folks, but anyway, and I like my opposing just fine. He actually came up with something that was loads of fun though. He didn't want to replace the sheathing on the roof. That's gap sheathing. He wanted to overlay it. And I said, well, that's not like, kind, and quality. He says, no, that's better kind and quality.
Oh, okay. Is it? I'm not much of a roof guy, to be honest with you.
Well, well, think about it. So you've got one by material there. You're going to add almost the same amount there. So that means your drip's going to have to go way down.
Okay.
It's not going to be the same roof that it was when you started.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. If they would have just stayed with cedar shake for all of time, we'd be fine.
It could cause other issues, it sounds like.
It's I don't know, but that's not the thing. It's like in Tennessee, what we notice routinely these umpires and appraisers. Like I replaced an appraiser who was half through a job that was a $700,000 job, and his billing was $123,000.
Holy cow!
And I thought, if I could get this kind of business, I could split it with Kevin.
Yeah.
And we could both retire in about a year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm serious though. It's crazy. But
I see it with the state. Like we've got a franchise in Chattanooga that did a job, and the bank, instead of the insurance company paying it, the bank that has the loan on the place was going to pay it. They got their attorneys involved and found a little known stipulation or a little known thing in the laws of contractors licenses that if you any amount of demo that you do, you have to have some type of contractor's license. Mm-hmm. In most states, for demo, you don't have to have a license. You have to have a license to put it back. Up to a certain amount you can do or whatever. And so I went round and round with the state on that, and they told him, and finally they told me, and then they wouldn't talk to me anymore. But they told me, yes, in order to do this. So, yeah, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He's not going to get paid. All right, $3 million total for the job. All right. In the meantime, we got another guy now opening a franchise right in a neighboring county. And I told him all this when he asked about it. He went to the state, and they told him, that's not true. You don't have to have a license to demo anything. And I went, so the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Right. And well, I mean, like little things like in Tennessee, for example, there's an awful lot of Tennessee where you can't even look up the status on a lawsuit unless you go to the actual clerk of court's office.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
They did not hear about the power of the internet.
No, they're not online at all.
But I'm going to fix this for you. This guy that I met with, he said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here to break up the appraisal mafia. He says, who's that? And I said, well, you're one of them. And the thing is, I don't want to take anybody away from their business. What I want them to do is understand they have to do their business correctly.
Just be right.
And you can do your work. You can do your work reasonably and appropriate, and you can serve your clients' needs and your needs to be ethical at the same time. You can do
that. I hate to say I love us because we're a red state and I'm a red guy, but there's a lot of good old boy networking in Tennessee.
Well, I have the I just always have this. I like consistency. Okay, mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent for, you pick a Bible, you stick to it. We can work with it because it's consistent, right? And it aggravates me to death when somebody purports to be a person of faith and they engage in behavior that is clearly against the tenets of that faith, and do so with a righteous indignation as if it was theirs. And to me, that's as bad as the folks who just think they deserve the business.
Yeah, you see that a lot in the South, unfortunately.
Because all these franchises you run, they don't deserve a bit of business. They have to earn it every day.
Yeah, and some of them still don't deserve it.
Yeah, and no, I mean, there's a lot of folks, but you don't deserve it. I told my son years ago. I said, you know how you'll know when you arrived, right? He says, how? I said, you'll know you don't deserve it. I said, you'll know that you'd be grateful for what you get, and you know that you got to get it tomorrow just the same you got it today.
Right.
And I said, and of course, he is also the same kid that called me a little while ago and told me that he didn't think that having the job that he has, making the money that he's making, which is better than most people his age, okay, as a young professional. He said, I do not understand why I do not have more money at the end of the month when I have this job. I think they should pay me more.
Yeah.
And I said, it could be they're paying you what you're worth.
It could be you need to work on your budgeting.
Yeah, I said probably you need to understand they're paying you what you're worth, and you probably need to just spend less. You know what his answer was? He says, I think I'll get a girlfriend. I said, I do not think that's going to work out the way you think it's going to work out.
Probably not. No.
I was like, what, you going to move your girlfriend in here and share all the expenses? Well, that's going to go great.
Yep. That's
yeah,
right.
That's going to go great. No, I just think that I think that I really like the people of Tennessee on the whole. I find them to be an interesting tribe. I feel sorry for some of them that are going to have to go through some pain, though, because we're going to go through a grow up plan here. And, but I think we got a great opportunity up there too. I think we could modify the law to make them where we have to adjust claims via the S500 and S550 and, IICRC basic, there's some places on earth they do that, and it works out a whole lot of fights. It also means that these contractors that think that they can say, oh, it's the standard on everything they do, start dealing with people on the other side who really do understand the standard now because they have to adjust by it. And they're like, no, I don't think so. I'm not paying for that.
Right.
That's the backside of that none of these guys see. But I listen, I was thinking about this today, okay? Or yesterday, I should say. Let's say that we were doing a roof. Okay. Now, let's say that we were doing a roof and we were doing this by the reporting standards that your mitigation companies have to do. Okay. So we're going to write down on a piece of paper. We're going to say, we arrived at Miss Smith's house at such and such street, claim number such and such, claim number such and such, having been approved to proceed with the roofing. We have retained a permit. We spent 1.2 hours at the permit office, had a 45-minute meeting with the city to go over the scope on site. We had a 30-yard roll-off, and we placed 128 feet of CDX, 1.5-inch CDX under the roll-off to avoid damage to the side, to the driveway. At 10:32 a.m., our temporary toilet showed up along with our hand wash station. We got these under a monthly minimum, as we don't think we will be here very long, over 3 days. Okay. Then we would have to test the shingles to make sure they were the shingles that we thought they were. Then we would have to pull the shingles off, and we would have to look at the decking and grade the decking and make sure that the decking was okay and document it, all of it. And then if we re-nailed it, we would have to take pictures of all the re-nailing that we did and list the number of nails we used.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see what I'm saying? We take a 2-day roofing job and turn it into 5 days in about 5 minutes, wouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we tell the roofer, just go do this roof, and he sends a picture and a note and says, we're done, pay us. Okay. By the same metric, if that guy went out to do his work, okay, if he was a mitigation company, after he did his work, what would more than likely happen to him? What do you think? They're going to review his invoice, aren't they? Whoa, did I lose you for a second there? I think I lost your voice. Still don't hear you. Did you mute it? Let's see. Still don't hear you, Kevin. Don't hear you. The miracle of the internet. You don't see the, it says you got your mic on. Your built-in microphone is what it's using. You want to go out and come back in? Still don't have you. Whoa. There you are. What happened to you?
Well,
I thought you had posted land.
my wife a message and told her I was going to be doing this, and she still called me, and then she called me back.
Of course.
Because she was calling her mother about something, because we're talking about Tennessee. In the next 12 to 18 months, we're probably going to move to Myrtle Beach. So.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So that way you can get proper hurricanes up your tail every now and again?
Absolutely.
So you can pay proper levels of insurance?
Absolutely. No, we've got good friends there who we were friends with in North Carolina who we were next door neighbors with, and now they've moved there, and we go visit them all the time. It's a long story, but that's how we came to be where we are. And we were worried about her mother getting upset because they moved over here from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I was like, I figured this was coming, so. Ha! Well, I kind of dropped the hint the other day. So. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. But so when I called her, she called me back. I thought, oh, gosh, it must not have gone good. And
that's okay. Let me see. Can you make that where I can see your face? Well, I feel like you're hedgehogging me.
It's supposed to be everywhere I can turn it sideways, and it's not reacting.
Weird. Oh, well.
It's probably because I screwed it up when I took that call.
You did. It's all your fault.
It's all her fault. What can you see?
You're sideways. I see your glasses really close. There's not a button there that tells you you can flip it?
No.
Well, that's better, though. I can see your face.
I don't know why. It was when we first started.
Can you tell it? You could probably tell it to do it. Hold on while you do that. Just 1 second.
Now you got to answer a call.
1 second. Hey. Yeah? Did he give you a ticket? Pretty girl, pull over. So that's what that was. Pretty girl, pull over. Mm-hmm. You watch. All right. I got to go, sweetie. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We're wandering around the house now.
Okay. So back to our question after all that meandering. So if we did that, if we had that roofer do that, they would have sent him a message after he submitted his bill and told him they owed him far less for his work. Fair enough?
Okay.
So tell me.
Sorry, I'm getting some food.
You know I got those same damn cabinets and those same damn countertops?
What's that?
Same damn cabinets and same countertops. I mean, like identical. Everything. It's all the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen. You didn't know that?
Yeah, you must be.
I'm sorry. You come in your office instead of doing it this way?
No, that kitchen there that I got is about to be demoed.
Oh, okay.
It's just full of soot. Anyway, no, but so just watch this for a second, okay? So if that roofer did that job and he was like a mitigation company, then they would review every line item of his estimate and decide to pay him less. Almost 100% of the time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because that's what they do on all jobs.
Okay, so my question is this. Why do mitigation companies who are the most documented work that we do, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The most documented work that we do, how is it that we have the most documented work we do gets the most cutting?
I don't know.
I mean, some people would say because there's a lot of fraud in that industry.
I could say that. There's jacklegs that come along, and that crosses my mind.
Okay.
I think if I really wanted to put my mind to it, I'd go back to the McKinsey report.
Okay.
That when Allstate hired them, the consultant, to tell them how to increase their profits.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in and said, it's time to take off the good hands and put on the boxing gloves. And make your claim center into a profit center. And so one of the ways they can do that is by pushing back on mitigation bills.
Okay, but and I get that. I get that.
Okay.
But why not say to the guys who installed the cabinets that we don't think the pulls you have are the right quality, and that I don't think it took you 7 hours to do the I don't think it took you 7 hours to do the to do the cabinets. I only think it took you 4.
Why don't they say that instead?
Yeah, why don't they do, what I'm saying is that why isn't it equal opportunity? Why don't they is it just, well, it can't be just because that the mitigation company does the work first, because they don't do the same thing to the emergency service guys, and they're before you are. They don't say to the emergency service guys, I need you to remeasure that tarp because I think you got it. I don't think you got actually 240 feet. I think you only did 200. I know we agreed to pay 177 a square foot, but we're paying 132 a square foot. They don't do that.
Well, not a lot. No, you're probably right about that. I mean, because usually the emergency services is done by the same company that does the mitigation. Not all the time, but in a lot of cases. I don't hear of a lot of pushback on that.
So this is my thought. Okay, this is my thought. I think this is the perversion. Okay, that this squeeze that's gone on with the mitigation companies. Number one, I think it's created a culture of poverty within the labor there, which is a problem. But what it's done to some degree is it's squeezed down labor rates and reduced the amount of labor. Okay. And it's to some degree increased the equipment rates, because at the end of the day, most mitigation companies make their money on their equipment and not on their labor.
Right.
Imagine a roofer who only made money on the shingles.
True.
He wouldn't do very well, would he?
No.
No, he has to make a little bit of money on the labor and money on the materials so that he builds a business that makes money all the way around. So my thought is simply this, is that the first thing we need to do is we need to start changing the conversation for mitigation by charging a reasonable rack rate for the worker, so that we make sure that we make money on the roofer. I mean, on the basic worker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I signed my mitigation contract for stuff going on at my house, they had a schedule of labor rates and material rates in the contract. Their senior guys, $133 an hour. Their cheapest tech was $87 an hour. That's above what Xactimate would pay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Incidentally, my carrier paid that, by the way.
Some companies are starting to try to go more to T&M as opposed to Xactimate.
Well, I understand they're going to T&M, but the problem is if I'm doing T&M and I've got 20 hours worth of tech time and my loaded rate on that technician is $72 an hour and they're paying me $56, it don't matter how I calculate it, I'm losing dollars unless I eat. Okay. So my point is this: I don't care how you estimate it.
Right. Okay.
I don't care how you estimate it. I think that first of all, we have to be charging a reasonable rate, because, and I tell you this only because if you're going to have to go through a sequence where they have to look at your stuff and cut it at a bare minimum, they're not cutting it from its already low rates for labor.
Right.
They're cutting it from a higher rate. And of course, I also think if you just publish your damn rates, you'd have a better outcome anyway. Okay. Like it's very hard for me to overcome. If somebody publishes their rates and I have it as an umpire and appraisal, I can't just go, ooh, I'm not going to pay that unless they were charging, $300 an hour for a technician. That may be egregious.
Yeah.
But incidentally, by the way, on T&M, this is the big joke on all large loss. The carrier will often say, we have this a lot in our estimation shop. Okay. The carrier will often say, well, we don't want that in T&M. We want that in Xactimate. So they'll call us up and say, hey, write that in Xactimate. So we'll flip it over to Xactimate and it'll come in and it'll always come in higher. Xactimate will always be higher than T&M.
That's
It is. It is the. I mean, always at least 20% and often higher. Okay, always. So we write that up, we send it in, and they promptly pay the T&M.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
but it's I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is we have to figure out a way to make the work not negotiable.
Like it was 30 years ago.
Yeah. So how do we, so the real question is, how do we make the work not negotiable where it's a thing that happened? We have proved that it happened. You know, we didn't ask for any trees falling in the woods where we did not document it. If we do that, could we then demand, could we start demanding payment differently?
Well, you know, I constantly remind, of course, now we're not on programs, but I constantly remind our guys that when you do a job and an insurance company starts telling you what they're going to pay you, you don't work for them. You work for the insured.
Right.
So the insured has signed the contract, and ultimately they're responsible for the difference that the insurance company doesn't pay. But insurance companies, I'm just throwing this out there separately a little bit. Insurance trying to start to go where I think I want to go, but insurance companies, in my opinion, it's going to be bad. They don't care. They know that the restoration company who lives and works in that community is going to probably take the loss so that the insured doesn't have to pay the difference. Whereas the insurance company with people sitting in somewhere else that don't know these people are like, they don't care if they have to pay it because they're only going to pay for what they do. And I know it came from the McKinsey report, but I remember when, I won't say the name, but the first TPA contacted me when I was still in the field. And I was like, why would I pay you for leads? And then it became that people started doing that. And then they started noticing their bills getting cut by that same company. All right. And then you've got all these other TPAs that come in for now. And what they do is immediately slash bills. But
Okay.
I don't know. I can't say this about all of them. I know, and I can't say it for a fact, but I know I've heard it. So, you know, that's hearsay in court. But I don't know that they all do it, but that particularly at least one I've heard of, that any prices they get slashed more than what is expected, they don't pass that on to the insurance company. They pocket that. But I wouldn't be able to prove that.
Well, that'd be an interesting thing to prove. That would be
a fraud.
That'd be some RICO level stuff there. It would. That would be. But
I can't say absolutely they do that.
Well, but how about this? You remember back however many years ago, whenever they just sent somebody from the carrier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that guy came out and discussed the scope with you, and
yeah.
And
that's the good old days.
And that's about it, right?
I was the restorer, you were the adjuster, and we talked about it, and you told me some things. And I don't know if I want to pay for that, and I'd be like, "That's all right. I won't worry about it because it wasn't a big deal."
Or you'd say, "We'll get down the road with this, and if we have more to talk about, we'll talk about it later."
Absolutely.
You know, because the thing was, if you look at the metric, it was when we when we got TPA set up basically around Katrina time, because there was too many losses and they needed to augment what they were doing, and then that got baked in the cake. And so the TPAs, and I mean, I know a lot of good TPA people. I'm not disparaging.
I do too.
But you also have to understand that there are certain motivations in business that exist, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
And those guys believe at their management level that if we don't reduce the cost of the carrier, they're not going to give us business.
That's fair.
That may not be true.
But it's a fair thought.
But it's what they believe, and it's not an irrational thought. Okay.
Well, but it doesn't help any on my side of the fence as a restorer when we pad bills.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But so see what I think happens with your side of the business is I think you're kind of like a lot of public adjusters are, where they say they're going to cut me in half in anyway. So I'm just going to shoot the moon so I get what I was supposed to get on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of those are good behavior,
No.
but at least once again, you understand what the motivation is for it, because, people are always going to move in a way that helps them survive. Okay. And, and, so, so, so my, so what I guess what I wonder is this, is that the only thing I found that helps this at all is alternative dispute resolution. So it's the only thing I found that helps it consistently.
Is that where you go out behind the woodshed and duke it out?
It's similar. It's just written in the policy as appraisal usually, or going to like court or whatever. But here's the thing. Like I have in contracts, if you don't do what you're supposed to do as per the contract, some things happen to you.
Yeah.
Like you run up collection fees and interest and attorney's fees and lots of these things. Okay. I mean, it seems to me that the one thing that is still baked in the cake is the principle of incurred cost. And if I hire you and you do $35,000 of the work for me, and I signed an agreement to that effect with the pricing to that effect, and you provided me a proof of what you did scope wise,
mm-hmm.
then it seems to me that is an incurred cost. And if I had done an incurred cost, for like my insurance company didn't pay me for my bed yet that burnt, and I really like my bed.
Oh,
and we've been renting a bed for $500 a month, which is craziness.
Yeah,
especially for an uncomfortable bed. But like last week when I bought that bed and I sent them the receipt for it, they gonna pay me for that bed. They're not gonna pay me $100 less or $600 less. They're gonna pay me for the bed because it is incurred cost. My contractor who did stabilization on my property, I signed an agreement with them and they paid the bill. It seems that principle is still available.
Yeah, but also may be because they know who you are.
That's not fair.
And they don't fight you. Well,
okay. Okay. Hold on. That's a little fair. I'll give you. I'll give you that. I'm not that scary. I've been around.
You know your stuff.
I've been around a while. So, but
they know your stuff.
But just follow me on this. So, but I mean, you can look throughout the industry and you can see where things are incurred, how it gets paid. You can watch legal cases where things are incurred, it's paid. If the insurance company says that the price of your roof is $44,000 and you contract for $54,000 and you sign a contract for that and they execute the work, they owe the $55,000 because you still have the right to select your vendor, and it's provided it's not egregious, gets paid.
Right. Yes. Even though they might push back on it.
They might, but the moment it's incurred, it just changes the complexion of it completely.
Yeah.
But the moment the mitigation invoice is incurred, it does not create the same necessity. It creates another necessity altogether.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now, going back on my side of the fence, and again, I hate to say it because, I'm pro restorer, but I made the comment about padding the bill. Yeah, so many will try to charge for little things that they may or may not have done in order to make up because they know they're going to get, as they say, screwed on another end of it. But you also got to look at mentality on our side. Like, my thoughts have always been, if you sign a contract with me and put me on your vendor program, then why are you questioning my bill so hard? We've had discussions throughout the job and we've come to these agreements, and now you're telling me that, oh, you don't think that needed to be done. But it comes from, I remember back when I was still in the field, I was doing nothing but water damage, and I may have told you this if I had to stop me, and mold. And I hired a guy to run my production division. He was really good, and he had a lot of fire experience. So I know in order to keep him paid and busy, I needed to start doing fire, and I had put that off for so long because it's so tedious. All right, so we started doing fire. But before that happened, there was a buddy of mine who was a handyman business. And he did some of my build back for me on small jobs and stuff like that. A great guy, but he told me one day, he said, Kevin, you got to do fire. And I said, I don't know if I really want to do that because I hadn't hired Wayne yet. And I'm like, this and that and the other. And it's just such a pain. He said, no, it's really easy. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you just go in, he said, and you just rip everything out. And then you put it all back and insurance pays for it all. and I thought, you've never heard of deodorization. You've never heard of how to save stuff. And that's also sort of why I got into it, because now I thought, he's out there screwing insurance companies because he's just ripping everything out. And I know how to go in and save certain materials and use deodorization techniques to remove odor. So you got that on our side of the fence. That's what people do. They just go in and rip everything out and then charge exorbitant amounts for it and all that. So
right.
I just
I think there is some bad history there.
Yeah, true.
Okay, I do think there's some bad history there, but a lot of the most egregious characters in our business have gone away because they didn't have a sustainable model.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of them have gone away. I just think I think that there is a. Do you ever just bill the insured for whatever the carrier didn't pay?
When I was in the field, I didn't have to do that. That's been a long time ago. All I had to do was say it, or
right?
send the bill to the insured, and the insured would call the insurance company and say, "What the heck is this?" And the insurance company would just approve it because it got the insured upset.
Okay.
Now, but I do recommend that to our people when they call me and say insurance, they're not going to pay because I don't have this or this. I'm like, well, you should have that because I've told you to have that. But technically, you're not on their program, so you don't owe them that. All you owe them is a bill. You don't owe them anything else because you're not on their program. But it'll make it easier for you if you do have it. I said, and then when anything they don't want to pay, the insured's responsible for that. Well, I don't want to do that to them. They've been so good to me. Yeah, but you're talking $5,000. You want to just walk away from that?
Well, I would a lot rather have the insured calling the carrier and ask them to, why it's costing me money to, to do this work whenever I already paid my deductible.
Well, I've got a form that we don't use at our company right now, because we're trying to be a little more TPA friendly, but that talks about the insured, the insurer, and the restorer, and what the relationships are, and that, and it does say that in anything that's not a covered loss, ultimately you're responsible for that. But it also talks about how the insurance company may tell you you have to use their preferred vendor, and you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I
don't know if we've gotten anywhere on this.
I've thought about that preferred I've thought about that right to repair stuff. I don't know if I come to Tennessee today and I start running construction without a license, am I breaking the law?
Yeah, that depends on what you're doing.
Okay, but if I'm a insurance carrier that runs construction, am I breaking the law then?
Well, no, because you pay lots of money to lobbyists to make sure you don't get in trouble for that.
Well, they ended that business in Louisiana in one night.
Oh, did they?
The governor woke up and said, "Wait a minute, we gave them licenses as insurance companies. We did not give them licenses as general contractors. Stop sending people to do work at these properties."
Most governors won't do that.
And all at once, but you know what happened? The carriers still sent people out, but they weren't under a program.
Mm.
They sent them out, and they were just the contractor that they said, hey, we got a contractor who'll do that for you. That's it. And then that contractor started acting like a contractor, and then all of these normal things happened.
Oh, I get you. So
And
things
so
happen like they're supposed to.
basically, you know, you got Rainbow International walking in as a retailer, which is kind of awesome to them because they feel like, you know, I don't have to work for 70% or 60% of what the going rate is.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome, but you know, but that's just me. But I think that I don't think we have an answer to the problem. I think the problem is way, just like most things in the insurance business, is way more complex.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Because it has several factors. It has some bad characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have some public adjusters who are really bad characters.
Yeah.
And so it screws with the rest of the industry. We have some attorneys who are really bad characters. Yeah. It screws with the rest of the industry. We have some carriers who are really bad characters. So it makes us think that everybody in the game is like that.
Yep. There's some restorers who are really bad restorers.
Yeah. All around, there's always going to be some bad apples, right?
Yeah.
But it's not everybody.
That's the thing. Yeah.
It's not everybody. And so when you treat somebody like they're a criminal when they're not a criminal, it breeds contempt.
Yes.
And when you treat somebody like that, it makes them want to scam you because they don't have a choice, or they feel justified in it. So I think that the first thing we can do is we can tamp down the crazy, make the crazy a very, very rare thing. Okay. So when we see a bad character in our game, we do everything we can to get rid of that bad character.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Okay. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think we maintain absolute transparency about what we do, about what our work is, what it looks like, why we did it. You know, end of story. I think that ameliorates it. I think we focus on our relationship with the insured and not with the carrier, and we work for the insured and ultimately get paid by the insured.
Yeah.
And understand that is our relationship. I think those things help. I'll tell you another byproduct that's happened here though. Is you remember you'd call up Joe Adjuster, and Joe Adjuster would come on out and be like, "Hey Kevin, let's figure out what's going on here."
Yeah.
Now Joe Adjuster comes out and looks at it and leaves and don't tell anybody anything.
Right.
And the restorer's out there, and he either can go do his job and maybe get paid.
Exactly.
Or he's got to drop equipment and inform the carrier that he's containing the loss until they approve a scope, because he's worried that it's a bad business decision for him to proceed.
Yes.
I think another byproduct of this behavior is that I'm paying for stabilization a lot more than I used to ever pay for stabilization.
I'm not a fan of stabilization.
I'm not either, but how do you do the basics of what the insured's responsible to do?
Exactly.
And not run up a bill. How do you do that?
Well, I don't know. To me, it all comes back to communication, and but sometimes it's hard to communicate with folks on both sides of the fence, and I wish I had an answer for that one. But I remember when I worked at a small company, right after two stories here, that right after I left a bigger company, after I'd gotten out of the field and sold my business, and I worked for a bigger company, franchise company, and eventually we went separate ways, and I worked for a smaller one for about a year. And they hired a guy to come in who ended up being over me and the other franchise, what we call franchise coordinators, like franchise consultants. And he came from a notorious TPA. And he and I butted heads every freaking day.
Okay.
He would finally just tell me, well, that's just the way it's going to be because I'm the vice president and you're not.
That's right. You're special.
To where one day I just said, you know what? Here's my 2-week notice. I ain't dealing with this. And but he was the one that would argue with me about stabilization. And he let stabilization go on for days. And I'm like, if you're going to do it, you shouldn't do it more than 2 or 3 at the most, maybe 4. But when you start getting into, 5 plus, you get into dangerous ground. And
Right.
the other one was sitting in a meeting, and this is where I think a lot of our problems started. Sitting in a meeting at the larger place I worked, and hearing one of the executives showing a graph of how much money the company made and how it hung at around 500 or 600 million for several years, and then all of a sudden it started going up. And he said, and here's where we figured it out. He said, we quit telling the insurance companies how to do it and did it the way they wanted it done. So now you got people who may have attended a class but have never actually dried a building or cleaned a fire or removed mold. But all of a sudden, as it is now, they're telling the restorer how to do the job by saying, we won't pay for this, we won't pay for that.
I think you just answered the question. So
I've been holding that one back.
So the answer to the question is, we'll be able to change this when the carrier stops administering directions on the
On
work,
how to do the job.
and the restorer does their job and the adjusters do their job.
Yeah. And then you're going to have differences, but you're going to have to figure them out. But it's like you say, if you get a lot of bad apples, eventually they'll run themselves out. As an ex-cop, sometimes I see cops who are bad apples. They kill somebody they shouldn't have killed. They beat somebody, whatever. They do something wrong. And it's not a good thing. But I always said that those of us who were good cops, when we picked up that somebody was a bad cop, we ran them out because we didn't want them tarnishing the image of the badge. Because the badge is something to be proud of and stands up for the weak and all that stuff. Same in the restoration industry. We're standing up for the people who can't stand up for themselves.
Incidentally, that's why I find it so interesting when I talk to you guys who used to be in law enforcement, because there is a strangely large density of people in our business that used to be law enforcement. And, I can take a PA who was in law enforcement, and I can have somebody question him on his ethics, and he will just about come out of his skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like the old law enforcement side of him that says, no, this is right. Yeah. How dare you say I'm ethically wrong when I'm looking at the rule? Yeah, I mean, like it's a different sort of feeling. And I have an attorney that's the same way. Part of the reason why he's a good attorney is because of that police background. And but I think I really do think you made the simplest, straightest answer, is that when someone else other than the person doing the work was administering the work, it made things difficult to get the work done right.
Absolutely.
And I think to that point, what I normally find when I dig through these files is that most of these restorers do 30 to 50% more work than they bill for.
Oh yeah.
On the regular.
Oh yeah.
And
but they're going to do the right thing.
But that's my point. They are doing the right thing despite that, because at the end of the day, you cannot be a restorer and not understand that you are responsible for life safety. And that's one thing. This particular thing offends me so badly when it comes to this particular behavior offends me so badly within our entire continuum here. We take the guys who literally manage life safety and we squeeze them hard. And
because you can't.
Well, the thing is,
they
can. Those guys. I was in a structure not long ago, and we've all had this event. If you've been here very long, you've walked into a structure where you're like, I cannot be in this structure without a respirator
on. Right. Yeah.
And people are living here.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to put a respirator on because you're about to really offend them, but you do it anyway because you understand that no good is going to come from you being polluted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went and I looked at the structure, and then I told the folks that were living there, I said, could you guys meet me out front? And we walked out front, and I said, how you guys feeling? He said, well, we're okay today. We hadn't been good in months. I'm like, well, tell me what not good is. He goes, well, we got one of us in the hospital right now. All three of us have been in the hospital at least once. I said, since when? Since about 20 days after the storm. And I said, I need you guys. I need you guys to go pack some stuff up. I said, I'm going to make some noise, and either they're going to put you somewhere else, or I'm going to have somebody make it where you can't go back in your house. I said, because it's killing you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't let you kill yourself. I said, it's wrong. And this was actually on an umpire gig I was on. And I turned to the carrier guy and I said, put your phone on speakerphone, and I need you to call a desk adjuster. I need you to do it right this second. And I said, when they answer, you tell them where you are and what you're doing and that you have an emergency. And you tell them that you have the entire appraisal panel here, and the appraisal panel is immensely worried about the health, including you, the health of the insured. And we have to do something right this second. And he says, they're going to get mad at me. I said, let me see if I can explain this to you. It's going to cost about $100,000 to put them in additional living expenses. It's probably going to cost them about $200,000 for the damage to their health. I said, I'm about to walk you out of this problem and walk you out of an E&O claim. I said, I'm going to walk you out of this problem where you're not going to pay for all that's been done wrong here, because you're going to do it so right, so fast that nobody's going to think to do that. And let's get on with it. And he called and he said that, and man, the carrier went dead silent. And I said, if they're not going to do this, I'm going to have to get my credit card out and I'm going to have to put them in some housing. And she said, tell the insured that they'll get a call in 5 minutes.
Mm.
And I said to the adjuster, I said, hey, I said, there's one more thing. I said, I need you to send a restorer here. And I need you to pack out all the contents, and I need you to clean what can be cleaned and trash out what can't be cleaned. And I need them to stop. I need them to contain the loss. And she said, well, it's got mold in it, and that might only be $10,000 worth of coverage. I said, no, ma'am, there's some mold in it that's causing them problems if they have water damage. Please have your restorer come deal with the water damage. Is your wife calling again?
Got plugged into my because my phone battery was running low, and it just popped up again. But now I realized my other end isn't plugged in properly. So
okay, no, but at any rate, I guess my point is that even when things go terribly wrong, we have the capacity to make it okay.
Yeah.
If we'll stop and pay attention to that. And years ago, I got in a fight with my wife, and we were supposed to leave and go to Dallas. She travels with me for business mostly, and we were supposed to go that night for a meeting I had in the morning in Dallas. And we got in a big knockdown drag out, and I walked out the door and drove off in the truck, went and got on the plane. By the time I got to Atlanta, I was feeling pretty crappy.
Yeah.
Like I've done a terrible thing. I called the carrier and I said, look, I said, I was supposed to travel with my wife. She didn't travel with me. We got in a fight, and I went ahead and left, and I need to go home. And the lady on the phone says, Mr. Herring, they're going to hold the plane for you. It's about 4 gates down. I just told the head flight attendant to come grab you, take you off plane first. She said, I'll call you when you get to the other plane. I sat down in that plane. She rang the phone. She said, Mr. Herring, we're getting you home tonight. You're going to need to be back on the plane at 7 a.m. in the morning with your wife. There'll be no charge for this excursion this evening. She said, go make up with your wife. And she said, we sent her a message that told her that her flight had been rebooked and you were in transit.
And who was this?
Okay, that was Delta Airlines.
Okay.
Now Delta Airlines probably did that because I spend a lot of money with them every year.
Oh, yeah.
But they still had the notion that something's wrong here and we have the power to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we could have more of that behavior,
That's right.
then what we would have is you have, with these restorers, you have these collaborative individuals that can make things right very rapidly.
Yes.
You know, I said to a restorer one day, I said, you do soup to nuts. You do the mitigation through the construction, right? He goes, yeah. I said, call the carrier and tell them you can have this done in 60 days from start to finish. And he says, okay. And in this case, it was a really good carrier too. And the carrier said, what do you need to get started? Well, because normally that would take us 6 or 8 months and they would be in housing for all that time. At 60 days, we can keep them in substandard housing. We don't even have to put them out into like, kind, and quality. They're going to spend this little bit of money as opposed to this big amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think the restorers have just an incredible amount of power in that. But to summarize, I do think that you should charge more for your labor.
I don't. Yeah. I just don't know that. It's one of the things I push hard is that your documentation is detailed enough in today's world. Like, I think I use the term, everybody preaches, even at my company, preaches pictures, pictures, pictures. And I preach pictures and narrative, pictures and narrative, pictures and narrative. Like, every picture should have a description on it. Don't just send them a bunch of pictures. Say what it is. Because that's how I did my consults when I was doing consulting. I can't even say it. And I'll tell you, it wasn't as big as some of the ones you've done, but one little house I went to, a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, Methodist pastor and his wife and 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have been a $3,500 job, but it was totally screwed up by, and I hate to say it, but as a TPA doing it for a major carrier. I wrote up the consultant's report. They sent it to the carrier. The carrier said, this job should have been covered properly. Ended up paying out $65,000 to get the house back right, because they had to tear out a lot more stuff than they would have if it had been handled right from the beginning. And it was just terribly managed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key word right there too, is manage. Who's managing this job? Is it a TPA or is it somebody who's trained in restoration?
Well, I mean, and I mean, we also have to face like one particular problem that is a persistent problem that's not going away tomorrow. Okay. And this honestly got worse as an advent of COVID. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we had COVID, we had huge flight from the carrier of talent that was at the desk. Okay. And so what we have at the desk today is, I have a incredibly nice, very efficient desk adjuster on a claim that I have. She is termed as their large loss adjuster at the desk. She'll never walk in my structure. It is immensely difficult for her to adjust my claim
right
from there. It's also very difficult for her to adjust my claim, given the fact that the largest claim she's ever handled is $1.3 million, and they call her a large loss adjuster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking anything away from her. It's not that she's not a good person, hadn't done a good job. It's just she's not somebody who's talked to a restorer to figure out what was going on, right, and change the course of a whole claim. That's not who that is. This is an evangelist who's a paper pusher.
Okay. Yeah.
She tries to figure out what's important and then move it up the line to get approval.
Yes.
And that insulates you as the restorer a long way from the decision maker. And, everything that happens with an insurance claim, if we could have it happen faster, it works better. So the faster we get an approval, the better off we are. Kevin, I tell everybody in the industry to ask what the reserves are from about the first moment you're on the claim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's nothing to say that they cannot tell you what the reserves are. They'll tell you that they can't tell you, but they can tell you.
Absolutely.
And if you continue to ask for it like you need it, they'll give it to you. And when you find out that it's a $30,000 reserve on a $75,000 loss, the way you communicate is different at that point. Because now it's like, this will exceed the reserves. We need to adjust the reserves to X. We start talking about that. But I don't know. But I do have one thought that maybe we could do. Tell me what you think would happen if we did this. This is a little crazy. It would take a lot of those wonderful legislators that we don't like dealing with very much. But what if we took all the independent adjusters and we made them part of a registry that's run by the state? Okay. Maybe they're even paid a basic wage. Okay. They get higher CE requirements. They have to learn certain things. Like, we'd want them to get their water, their applied structural drying, all that stuff. Okay. We want them to be real certified individuals, right? But they work in this ecosystem over here. They don't work at the TPA. They don't work at the carrier. Okay. So carrier gets a claim. Now, you always have to make it. You also have to make it where you have to send an adjuster to a claim, not an Uber driver with a phone. Okay. And that's happening in California this second. But so basically, when the carrier wants an adjuster, they punch a button on a website and it sends them an adjuster. Not the adjuster they want. It's an adjuster who's on the list, who's certified.
Okay.
And then they communicate with the adjuster like they normally do, give them the assignment, and boom, they go to adjust. Now, what does this person now have to do? They now have a regulatory authority that they answer to that says they're supposed to adjust the claim, right? Doesn't say they're supposed to do anything hooey. They're not working under guidelines. They're working under my adjusting license. Okay. So they don't have to worry about getting their next job. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're not worried about their next job. They're going to tend to do this more like we used to do it.
Yeah. Kind of like a rotation thing.
Yeah. And so I like it because it allows the independent adjuster to do what the independent adjuster was designed to do.
Yeah.
Without all the hubbub behind it. Just it's super simple. I mean, it's like, this is a claims professional. They actually understand policy. You know, I'll bet you're like me. I'll bet you've met a pestle of good adjusters. I mean, great adjusters.
Oh yeah.
And I just think we do whatever we can to make that more powerful. And I think that would pivot our industry, because we would have a scope that was from somebody who was truly an independent adjuster that looked at everything and came up with something.
Right.
I think that would be awesome. Now that there's a backside of that too, but it's much harder. It's much harder. The backside of that is we make every claim have to have a public advocate on it.
Yeah, but one of the things going off of that I used to see was that adjusters that would attend, particularly ASD, WRT is one thing, but ASD is another. Now, WRT, it gives them a chance to mingle with restorers and get to know people on a personal basis. What's that thing we call it? Relationship building. All right, but what I saw in ASD was they would come out of ASD with a whole new understanding of drying.
Right.
Because they realized that even though you literally you're not stabilizing, you're starting the drying process. And you started immediately. And they see that within the first 24 hours, your environment is under control. But then they started understanding, based on the types of materials, that, okay, it does take several days to get this thing dry. And the pushback went away for a while. Like they would see, like, if in true in place drying where you can do that, you're saving everything. And they would see that the carpet pad and walls dried pretty quickly, but the wood subfloors, the concrete, whatever, did not. Then we started talking about bound water versus free water and surface water, and they started understanding that. Well, now a lot of those guys have either retired or moved into other positions, and you got newer, younger adjusters who are saying the same things they did 20 years ago. Why does it take you 5 days to dry a building? Your atmosphere is good in 24 hours. So that's one of the things I'm trying to get my company to do is get more adjusters in our classes. In fact, we're doing an ASD in Florida, in Panama City, at Rachel Adams' place.
Nice.
In August 19th through the 21st, and I've invited several TPAs to, and we've got a few seats for you guys if you want to send some of your people.
One of the things that I've been really impressed by is, like we have our community that we have on online that meets every 2 weeks.
And yeah, I'm never able to get there.
Okay, well, but we also have this website that has all that stuff on there where you can actually watch shows and everything. But what the interesting thing is that a tremendously high portion of the people that show up there are independent adjusters who are honestly looking for ways to up their game. And one of the coolest things I've seen in many, many moons is that we had this adjuster come in, and we happen to be talking about OSHA, silica, stuff like this. And she made the comment that, she didn't see a way to get that approved. Okay. And someone in the group said, "Hey, go meet with your OSHA inspector for the area. Go take them for coffee and say, what do you expect to see on my losses? What do you expect to see happening?" And this guy explained basic OSHA regs that he wanted them to follow. Okay. And this is awesome. And so they had a name and a number, and a name, number, and an email address. And so now they sent it in and said, "I included this and this and this because I met with ex ocean inspector who said that he wanted the following matters followed on these losses." They paid it like that. And there's a great example of how someone could up their game a little bit, and it made measurable changes in what actually came out of the carrier. And remember, they used to actually train the carriers. They used to send those guys out to Colorado and make them watch hail and wind and burn buildings and stuff for them, and do the whole thing. But they don't do that anymore. They don't do anything. They send them some primers. Don't trust the mitigation contractor.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah. Oh man! So what you gonna be in town for the next few weeks?
Yeah, I should be. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
no. I mean, we're leaving the 20th. We're going. My wife and I are going to Alaska.
You bastard!
I'll be off grid. So
you know that I do that every year.
Oh, you go to Alaska?
Every year. I started going there in when I almost died in 2020. I decided that I needed to vacation.
Oh, okay.
And so for the last 4 years, every summer I go there. I take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks off and go there.
Oh, okay. So you're there for a while.
I took my last year. I went to Tacoma, put my RV and my truck on a boat, and they delivered it to me at the port in Anchorage. And then I stayed up there like a month and a half, just tooling around Alaska. And it's the only place on earth I've ever been able to go where I can go places where there's no human sound. And it's the only place I've ever been able to go where no matter which direction I look, it's beautiful. And but I didn't get to do that this year because I had a little bit too much going on. And I'm resenting that I didn't get to do that because it's a key part of my sanity.
Absolutely.
Where are you going? What port are you going to?
We're going to Anchorage. We're doing a cruise.
Okay.
We're flying to Seattle, leaving out of Seattle and going up that way. So, it'll be my 50th state.
Okay.
I'll have all 50 states I've visited. So.
Okay, they're gonna take you to Denali, aren't they?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, when they take you to Denali, I want you to call me because you're gonna get a vehicle, and I'm gonna tell you some place to go.
Okay.
That's easy to get to, that you'll never, ever, 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 ever forget.
All right.
It's the most awesome place, and you can literally just drive up to it.
Okay.
It's that freaking awesome. But like there's this place close to Denali that we go to when we're up there, and like there's this one lake, for example, that I go to, and sometimes we'll just go sit by that lake for 4 or 5 hours. Just sit there. It's just the most serene place I've ever been in my life. And yeah, it's awesome. I've never done it on a cruise. I may before it's all said and done, but I've never done it on a cruise. But they have like on the way into Valdez, they have a valley. In this valley, they have over 100 waterfalls.
Wow.
The road to there just drives down the middle of these things, so they're everywhere. It's just such a damn category killer. I mean, like it's sad because everything else really is everything else. But
well, this one's special enough that I'm going off grid. I'm truly taking off. We're going on another cruise with some friends of ours in the Caribbean in October if a hurricane doesn't stop us. But on that one, I'll still be available for work, and like if something happens where they need me to take off and go back to like a site, then I'll have to do that. But because that's my job. But
yeah, I know it's
But this is going to be my true vacation where you can't reach me. Most people can't.
Yeah, no, I do a thing when I vacation is I get up in the morning and I check all the email.
Yeah.
And I usually do something, and then I shut it all down, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's awesome. I think we need more of that. But
yes, I agree.
But I just got a gig in Washington State though, and I think I'm gonna escape there for a little while, and at least go eat I don't know 10 or 12 pounds of cherries.
Okay.
Because I mean, there are cherries in the store and there are cherries there, and they're not the same. They're just not the same. But we can yeah. But it's gonna be a wild ride, man. But look, I appreciate you doing this today. I asked you a hard question, and you gave me some really things to think about. And I think that part of what we do in our business is as the good guys, we have to at least think through the things.
Oh, I agree.
Because at the end of the day, I think last year I spent $750 million of the carrier's money just doing umpire work. That is a ton of money. And I do not wish to spend one dime of their money that's not absolutely positively right.
Agreed.
And I would say that the majority of the restorers that I find in the industry have a very similar vibe about them. It's like, I want you to pay for me to do this and go get on down the road.
Right.
And I think that's,
as I teach in my classes, for doing the right thing. Do the right thing.
Yep. Do the right thing. Well, thank you, man.
Right,
I appreciate your time this afternoon. You take care of yourself.
You as well. Have a good rest of the week.
You know where to find me. I'll talk to you soon.
Happy Father's Day tomorrow.
Oh, happy Father's Day to you too.
Yes, sir.
I have, I think, one of my youngins coming home.
Well, good deal. Good deal.
All right, man. You take care.
All right. See you.
Right. Bye.
Bye.